Your identity matters more than you think. Life will beat the snot out of you. Life's hard. I'm bivocational, and I'm proud of it. I worked 5 days this week, 15-hour days, changing over battery displays at Pep Boys. You can allow the world to rob you of what God's given you, or you can choose to let Christ live through you. If I went and had a sorry attitude about having to work, I wouldn't have been prepared for the fact that my team leader who flew in from Chicago was a brand new baby Christian. Listens to Howard Stern in the morning and Christian radio in the afternoon. He's on that journey. Listen, this is about a journey. It's about the fact that if you don't have your identity straight, you're roadkill. Satan is real. He plays for keeps, and he will kill you. This guy Don this week. We're working 15-hour days. We're sweating. We get one meal a day. We're taking a break in between, driving to the next place. And guess what? The whole entire week we're doing discipleship. Woo! It was cool. I didn't know I was going to do ministry working. But I did ministry all week. You know what the cool thing was? You guys picked up the slack so I can go do that. You see, it's about identity. It's about having the confidence that God is working in you, that He's provided for you, that He's a plan and a purpose for everything. And if you don't have that straight, you're going to end up in a consumer church being wallpaper. I am anti-consumer church. I am anti-attractional. It's about serving the world. Turn to Acts 2. Because we're talking about discipleship. Why do we do what we do? Acts is the only roadmap that we have. And if you don't get it right, you ain't going to reproduce. Because it's about multiplying. Acts 2, verse 40. Because you see, this is where we have to get to with our living at our church. And if we aren't fully engaged as believers in Christ, we will not be engaging as a church to our culture. Philadelphia has 4.5 million people. 1.3 are under 25. 83 universities. 9.6 people out of 10 don't know who Jesus is. Do you get that? There are more Jehovah's Witnesses than there are evangelicals in this county. Talk with God's provision. Kick that out of the way. And Peter solemnly and earnestly witnessed and testified and admonished and exhorted with much more continuous speaking and warned them, saying, "Be saved from this crooked, perverse, wicked, unjust generation." And therefore those who accepted and welcomed his message were baptized, and there were added that day about 3,000 souls. That's a meeting. And they steadfastly persevered, devoting themselves constantly to the instruction, fellowship of the apostles, to breaking of bread, including the Lord's Supper and prayers. And a sense of awe, this reverential fear came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were performed through the apostles. And all who believed, who all adhered to and trusted in, and fully relied on Jesus Christ, were united together and had everything in common. And they sold their possessions and distributed the price among all, according to had need. And daily, day after day, they regularly assembled in the temple with united purpose. And their homes they broke bread, and they partook of their food with gladness and simplicity and generosity of hearts, constantly praising God, being in favor and goodwill with all people. And the Lord kept adding to their number daily as those would be saved. Now here's the thing. It's not about what you preach, it's how you live. Why do we talk about engage, equip, empower? Because the engage talks about identity. The equip talks about how are you wired. And the empowerment talks about how are you going to live. That's our core values. Because we have to get there. Because you see, our good deeds become a platform for the good news, which explodes with people coming to Christ. People will own community before they will own their faith. Do you get that? Why do we go out and do stuff? Because people will walk up to you and say, "Can I hang out with you?" When we were giving out bread last year at Drexel, one of the biggest takers of our bread was the Muslim Islamic Society. And this student came up to me, who's a leader, founder of the Muslim Islamic Society at Drexel, says to me, Pastor, I don't know anything about church. I know even less about Christianity. But if this is what church does, can I hang with you a while? Did I mention he's Muslim? From Saudi Arabia? Your good works will become the platform for the good deeds. That will become another platform for the good news that they want to embrace. How do we get there? I want us to look at this provision. Because if you understand, this is the first of 4 things that we're going to talk about as far as engaging. We are functioning as a handicap as Christians because we look back the 2,000 years through Roman eyes. We think Jesus did Sunday school. He didn't. There was no such thing. It was taught in the homes, which is a problem in Christianity because we've abdicated our responsibility as parents and said, church, you raise my kids. Well, I'm sorry, it's not my job to raise your kids. It's your job to raise your kids. It's my job to help teach you and make it easier. That's why we don't do Sunday school. We do kids' church on Sunday morning. We want to empower you to raise your kids because if you're not doing family devotions, guess what? Your kids will one day stand up and tell you to take a long walk up a short pier. Now, you have to understand your roots. We are looking back 2,000 years to the book of Acts, to the Gospels. They were Jews. The first church was Jewish. I love the fact because 40% of my neighborhood is Jewish. I'm the Goya pastor who builds the sukkah during Sukkot in the backyard. Why? Because I want to get to know my Jewish neighbors. We study the biblical feast. Why? Because if you understand the biblical feast, you will understand the New Testament. If not, it's all connect the dots.